What is up, guys? Last patch we checked out the top 5 ADs and mid laners, so I thought we'd take a look at the jungle today. There are a lot of good junglers at the moment though, so if your one isn't on here, don't hate me, but this is looking at who is going to carry the hardest at the moment. We're going to get right into it. Just a quick mention on Rengar. So I'm actually not going to put him in the top 5, even though I think he's still really good. He is banned all of the time, and these videos are based on stats, but also experience from me playing and stuff. And honestly, I have not seen him in 7.3 so far, and his stats aren't that great after the patch either, after the nerf. I still think he does so much damage. I still think he's really decent, honestly, but so are these 5 others. So I've gone with these. Number 5 is going to be Hecarim, who's probably the most underrated champion in this whole video. Everyone has forgotten about him a little bit with the newly 30 changes, but he is still really, really good for climbing with. Your farm speed is super fast, so you can gank a lot early. Like, ganks are decent with your charge and your ghost. At least you're going to blow a flash, right? If not, get something more. A lot of this comes down to farm speed, honestly, though. Like, it means you're going to be so much more active on the map because you've cleared your jungle. So that's kind of the early game sorted, right? But later, we're still going to be amazing. Mid game, we dive in with our Triforce and tangy stats to ruin the AD carry. Like, late game, I fear is still going to be able to do the same kind of thing if we land a good ult. The jungle really has 2 issues in solo queue that you want to think about. You have lower gold normally. That means that we have less items than laners in team fights unless we get fed. Number 2 kind of leads on from that. We can impact the map a lot early and get our lanes ahead, but ultimately it normally falls onto those we've given kills to win the game. This is kind of what this video is aimed at. So junglers who can carry the entire game way through, and ones who can generate enough farm or enough gold to keep up to laners. Hecarim does this perfectly, honestly, and with the 30 getting so nerfed, I think it's going to get even better again. It's also a comp thing. It's a really good when our top laners are all assassins or carry laners, right? We have an engage and a big tank that actually does some damage as well. The only problem is before you complete Triforce, you don't do a ton and you're pretty squish, honestly. You won't be doing quite as much as some others, but you scale really well. Number 4 is one I haven't been sure about, but I've been keeping a really close eye on him and his win rate as well, like when he's good in game and stat-wise and stuff like that. I think he's actually better than most people think he is. Also, people are probably playing him a bit wrong, and that's what's making him seem so bad. To be honest, he's a tanky diver who jumps into fights, disrupts, is annoying as balls, and does a ton of damage as well. If you're snowballing, then Blood Razor and stuff is super sick on him for sure, but like Cinderhulk, Titanic Hydra, and health stacking is legit so hard to play against. He has a good heal, like good sustain. He deals percentage max health damage, so he doesn't even need to build damage. He has 55% damage reduction plus a suppress with his ultimate. His kit is amazing as a tanky damage source, and that is why I'm putting him here. He just doesn't die. He does that damage. He has good long range ganks, decent farming, and a really good late game. Like, the game is going a bit longer now in 7.3, and it lets him become basically unkillable. Early game, I don't really think he's that great, to be honest. Like, diving into a team without tanky items yet probably isn't the best idea you're ever going to have. I think it really does come down to how you play him. Like, if you go full damage, you're not really going to do that much unless you get super fed. But if you go this kind of tanky with some damage build, you're just going to have endless sustain. You're going to be able to heal back up their damage because they don't do that much to you, but you can kill them. Vi is going to be at number 3. So again, pretty underrated. I think a good mix of carry and tank jungler. She actually adds a lot to a team comp, but more importantly, she craps on people with Triforce damage and one-shots them. You do have a decent clear speed and okay ganks, but at level 6, everything becomes super easy. Often actually playing Vi will force you to have more impact on the map and more ganks, because your ultimate is such an obvious gank that every time it's off cooldown, you're going to try and use it. You also hard counter assassins, which is a massive thing. So like Zed, Talon, Kha'Zix, Rengar, they are not a problem. They dive in, you press R, you burst them down. It really does make it so easy to play against them, and it helps teammates who can't really deal with them normally. Your damage is not so, considering you aren't super squishy. Like with Warrior and Triforce, sure you are, but then like Deadman, Sterix, Moore, and GA and stuff like that, suddenly you can kill people, but you're very hard to kill yourself. I think one of the biggest things is you're very easy to be effective with, but you have room to kind of show you're a good Vi player sometimes. Like your flash Qs, if you can hit them, your auto resets with your E and stuff like that, they make a difference, but they often aren't required. One of the biggest downsides though with Vi actually is if you get caught while you're building your first 2 damage items, you're going to die so fast. You have to be a little bit careful early game. Even though you do loads of damage, you're going to take a lot too. So now we're into meta slave territory, so this will be a bit more familiar. Kha'Zix is probably the best 1v1 champion you can play at the moment. You kind of supply that threat in the jungle really, like more of any of these others so far. The other 3 all have good damage, but they are really hard to kill because of how tanky they get. That's not really the same deal with Kha'Zix. He has his stealth to be annoying, but ultimately like you're there to one-shot people. You're not really going to take any damage for your team. It's a much more like selfish hard carry pick, I guess is a good way to put it. You're higher risk, but also higher reward because you can just literally carry the entire game by yourself. If you pop off, you'll absolutely crush people, right? You can one combo, jump back out again afterwards, rinse and repeat until basically everybody is dead. Your sustain in the jungle is actually decent with your W as well, so you can keep your farm and pressure up at the same time, which is really important if you want to gank a lot, but also get enough gold to get items. It is harder to play team fights as Kha'Zix than others, I think. You're there to flank. You're not going to dive straight in. You have to be smart about it. You have to kind of pick people off and make sure when you do finally jump in, you're having that huge impact in a very short space of time. The number one jungler by far at the moment though is going to be Graves. Lethality is a joke on this guy. Your ultimate will do like half of somebody's health with a few items. Your smoke screen is actually very underrated as well. Like, you cannot see, so you cannot fight. Basically, it's the same as hard crowd control, maybe even better if you place it correctly on top of an AD carry in fights. A lot of people don't think about this, but they won't be doing any damage until they move out of it, and if they can't see anything, they also can't dodge incoming damage or skill shots. The obvious side of Graves is the damage, which is why I kind of think smoke screen's forgotten about a lot of the time. But your auto damage is nuts with your passive. You auto attack, you press R, you E to cancel the knockback, and auto again, which means they're basically 100% dead. You don't even need your Q, which is kind of dumb. Your farming is amazing with your Q though, so you can keep up gold wise. Your ganks are decent if you path well behind somebody and your team has some crowd control to lock them in place. You can one shot very early into the game, but it's just not as obvious. Like, you need to play aggressive and try to snowball the game. It's weird because the downside of Graves really comes down to team comp. Like, he can suffer especially a lot at lower ranks. You have no tank, no frontline, and no crowd control, which makes team fighting harder. Everybody in the team is going to need a bit more skill to play that fight correctly. It's much easier to play with a Hecarim ulting in or a Vi or something than a Graves sitting at the back. Often you aren't the one going in anymore. You kind of have to rely on your team, and relying on your team in solo queue is not often the thing you really want to do. So I have a couple of honorable mentions though. So the first one is Nocturne. I think he's actually really good at the moment with a full lethality burst build. You're going to one-shot people legit from super far away, kind of like Rengar actually. He basically is a Rengar 2.0. He does a very similar job. Your farming is amazing. You have a lot of time to gank and a lot of gold to kill people with. Now, Ivern and Shaco are going to be put together for this. So they're both amazing junglers, but they are also both very skill-based, I think. They're different to most other junglers, basically. They aren't that easy to win games with, but they are super, super good at the moment if you do have a kind of game plan. So Ivern depends a bit more on your team as well. He's a bit different anyway, a bit of a unique champion, but you're basically an amazing support. You're going to keep people alive, so you're really good with or against full damage comps. If you can keep your team alive against a full damage comp when they've used their cooldowns, then that's basically it, and you win the fight. And if you can keep your team alive who have a lot of damage, then they're going to kill everybody. Shaco is more on you actually to carry the game though. You need a game plan and to be way more active to really use his strengths properly, which is not that reliable. Anyway, as I said, there are loads and loads of junglers who are good right now, but these are the ones I think are the best in solo queue to carry with at least. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to throw it a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, but for now, let's go to the robots.